Thanks, Fred. Pollie Waffle time once again, and here we have Luke Simpkins, member for Cowan. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Candice.
And in the interests of fairness, we did invite Green Senator Scott Ludlam to be with us here today, but unfortunately he couldn't make it, and we look forward to his company another time. So a free run for you today, Luke.
Sounds good to me.
Now tell us, member for Cowan, one thing I've noticed about the particular electorate, it's a huge range of people you've got in there, you know, from lower SES and some social challenging situations right up to people who are, you know, quite successful in their lives. How do you look and really pay attention to all the different needs of such a diverse electorate?
I think the important thing is to keep moving around and keep talking to people. I've been doing door knocking for 8 years now, and out in the shopping centres, schools, sports clubs. Important, just keep talking to people, keep trying to understand how people are thinking and how what their issues are. So
for people who are, you know, across the nation aren't too familiar with the electorate of Cowan, we are currently in the electorate of Cowan here at the Couch Studios. Tell us a little bit about the area.
180 square kilometres, 25 suburbs, quite a large Vietnamese population, about 3,500, and some other ethnic groups as well. There's no beachside suburbs, no riverside suburbs.
Sorry about that.
Well, a little bit rough, but hey, that's the way it goes. But lots of very good areas, and whether we're talking about from Ballajura up to Tapping in Banksia Grove and back to Warwick, lots of good areas, lots of people trying hard and doing a good job.
Geographically, we're talking it's the northeast of Perth. It's certainly a big growing area. What are some of the challenges which come with that?
Well, I think infrastructure is always going to be a bit of a problem. The suburbs are expanding, there's no doubt. Cowan's a sort of outer metropolitan area, and the challenges are people being able to afford housing and basically trying to get to work and find jobs. That's always important.
Federally, and you know, and the Liberals are on the line and have certainly put a lot of policy points out there, given that it's only the second week of the election campaign. What do you think the people of Cowan will benefit most from the policy announcements already?
Well, I think the emphasis on more jobs, that's what we're talking about, 1 million jobs over the next 5 years, 2 million over 10 years. These are what's important. People have got to know that their jobs are secure and that they will be able to afford to put food on the table.
With a large Vietnamese population, and certainly from my experience living in the area, quite a heavy migrant population, particularly from the UK and Western Europe. How do you juggle the sensitivities around asylum seekers, which is one of the big issues, with such a migrant population, many of whom may have been in a similar situation themselves?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is that for our position, our policy, there's a lot of support in migrant communities because people remember how hard it was for them to get here. And I have a large number of Vietnamese supporters, those that are from the UK, from South Africa, people that remember it wasn't that easy to get here. In some cases it cost them money and they had to go through a lot of different steps. And when Kevin Rudd changed the policy back in 2008, and suddenly since then we've had 500 boats, people are sort of saying, well, you know, these people are coming, they've had money to come and bypass the existing systems, and then they get help to set up here. And a lot of people feel uncomfortable about that. Migrants feel uncomfortable about that. And that's why on election day, I'm going to have Africans, I'm going to have Vietnamese, and I'm going to have Macedonian people coming out to help me because they feel that what the government has done or has been responsible for is wrong.
One thing that I do note about the sort of Liberal slant at the moment is that you're trying to push it away from being a race issue. Do you think it is a race issue?
No, not at all. I think it is a fair go. It's what I always say. I've been to a refugee camp in Asia, and I think it is important that the people in most need are the ones that will get to come here. Offshore, people that are stuck in refugee camps offshore will get the priority. Whereas those that come, and let's face it, let's not beat around the bush here, so many of those that come from across by boat have bought their airline ticket to go to Indonesia and then paid the people smugglers. So, and I've said this in Parliament on 30, 40 occasions in formal speeches. Compare that to someone stuck behind the barbed wire on the Burma-Thailand border who doesn't have any money. And how are they going to get out of those places and make a better lives for themselves here if those that come by boat who've got the money to bypass the system get the breaks?
So it's about busting the political economy of the crime for the people smugglers, really?
Well, it's definitely about that, and taking away the business model, absolutely. But at the same point, I think it is identifying who is in most need. And if you've got the money to bypass the system, I compare that unfavourably with those that are stuck behind barbed wire fences in refugee camps in various parts of the world.
And we've got another big policy issue, kind of referring to people in need here, disability. Where do you sit on the funding for disability?
Look, we've been up front. I remember before the last election saying in front of a disability community forum that we're in favour of it. And now we have also joined, we have always been along for the disability insurance scheme along the way. So we're looking forward to it rolling, and I'm looking forward to those people that come to see me within Cowan who will benefit from that.
And it's not just in Cowan either. It is such a diverse range of disabilities that will be benefit from, really investing in this area. One of the things, I admit being a little cynical chatting to you before we started rolling the cameras, you mentioned that you'd been visiting a lot of schools lately, and, cynical old me was, so you're grooming the next generation of voters, but it's not really about that at all, according to you, which is lovely.
Well, I've been doing it for 6 years, or maybe a bit longer, 7 years now. And I never go to a school saying, hey, I'm Luke Simpkins, I'm a Liberal, tell your parents.
Here's a goodie bag.
That I was here. No, don't give away handouts. But what I say to young people is that, if you think that Australia is the lucky country where good things are just going to be served up to you, you're mistaken. Society's job is not to just give you stuff. Society's job is to present the opportunity to you to be a success. And through the education system in this country, little kids growing up in Kandoola or Girraween, the more socially challenged places, socio-economically challenged places in Cowan, they have got the same opportunities to one day be Prime Minister, be a doctor at Royal Perth Hospital. And provided they believe that, then they can succeed. I just hate it when people get in the way and say, hey, our family's always been unlucky, or you come from places like that, you got no chance. Because it's rubbish. They've just got to believe that their destiny is in the palm of their own hand.
Certainly in my lifetime, Australia has been very fortunate economically, and with mining booms and things like that, whether they are ramping up or rounding down, whatever your personal view on that is. Do you think there is a bit of a culture or a mindset of entitlement with some of the generations coming up at the moment? Is that something that needs to be rectified?
Well, I think that I have not really detected somebody who thinks that the country owes them a living or society owes them a living. I haven't. I'm sure that is a problem, but I don't think it's a huge problem. I think as long as people realise that the first thing they should do, if something goes wrong in their lives, and the first thing we should all do, look in a mirror and work out, think, what part did I play in what has happened to me?
Right.
And, a bit of critical self-assessment, and then maybe go on after that. If you are always the sort of person that thinks, I'm lucky, or what's society done to me, then I think, you're never going to be able to succeed, because you'll always think that your future is beyond your control.
That's a little bit of the old army values coming out there, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I don't think.
Well, when people say, oh, you went from the federal police to the army and then later into politics, people say, oh, what was all that about? And I say, well, when I joined the army and when I joined the police force, was look at the flag, hand on the heart, I want to serve. And that's what it's about, because I believe that the future for Australian kids is great.
So it's a logical progression for you?
It's all about service, yeah.
It's a little bit nice, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I do have a great time. I do this leadership training in one or two of the schools, and kids come up to me and they say, yes, I'm going to be running for school captain. And I say to them, that's great, why do you want to run for school captain? And sometimes they say, oh, I want the badge.
Right.
I want to I like to sort of be in front of everybody. But I say to them, this is actually all about you being, you're not king, you're not going to be queen, you're not the lord of the manor, you're actually the chief servant of everyone else. So you have to help everyone else, not them helping you.
And sometimes to help the majority, though, unfortunately, certain groups are somewhat disadvantaged, whether it be temporarily or longer. When it comes to things like, the local government referenda, which has been proposed, where do you sit on that? I've read a lot of expert comment lately saying, while it may be, beneficial for a large group of people, there will be people within that society that could be disadvantaged, certainly at least temporarily.
Well, I think what happened with the local government, the recognition of local government referenda was that the federal government decided that they were only going to really fund one side of the argument. And I think that you've just got to provide 50-50, equal money for both sides to explain the case. And I think that the whole thing was completely rushed. We barely had heard about it before the start of the year. I know some people in local government were pushing it, but no one was talking about it before about February or March. And then for the government to only fund one side, and of course, Kevin Rudd changing the election date and everything like that, the whole thing looked like it was going to fall over.
Well, a whole bunch of things are going to happen in the next couple of weeks, and Luke Simpkins is on the record as saying where he stands on some of the major issues. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Will you join us again soon?
I hope to. Thank you.
Well, we hope to have you back certainly as well, and we hope to have your company again after the break.